Imagine being offered the Eiffel Tower. The buyer handed over a fortune for what he thought was a government deal. But the man selling it wasn't a government official. He was a con man. And here's where the story gets insane. He didn't sell the Eiffel Tower once. He sold it again, twice. Picture this: Paris, 1925. A well-dressed man sits in a suite at one of the most expensive hotels in the city. Across the table, a nervous businessman, pen in hand, about to sign paperwork to buy the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. And the man selling it to him isn't a con artist pretending to be a con artist. He's pretending to be a French government official. That alone should be the craziest part of this story. It isn't. Two separate times, two separate groups of businessmen, months apart, each one convinced he was buying the most famous monument in the world. Nobody stopped him. No alarms, no police storming the hotel, just a con man, a forged government seal, and one of the boldest lies in criminal history.
This is the true story of Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower. Twice.
So who does something like that? Not once, but twice to the same landmark, using the same trick? Somebody who spent his entire life training for exactly one skill: making people believe him, instantly, completely, and without question. To understand how the Eiffel Tower con worked, you first have to understand the man who built it in his head years before he ever stepped foot in Paris. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in a small Bohemian town, part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time. He was sharp from the start, a natural linguist who ended up fluent in 5 languages. But somewhere between school and adulthood, in Paris, he found gambling. And gambling introduced him to something far more interesting than cards: the psychology of people who badly want to believe they're about to win. Before Paris, before the Tower, Lustig practiced his craft on transatlantic ocean liners. He'd charm his way into first-class card games, sell wealthy passengers shares in companies that didn't exist. By the time he actually needed to convince someone he was a government minister, he wasn't guessing. He had run the experiment on hundreds of people already. Then, in 1925, Lustig read something in a Paris newspaper that most people would have skimmed past. An article about the Eiffel Tower, specifically about how expensive and difficult it had become to maintain. Some articles even floated the idea that the city might eventually tear it down. Most readers turned the page. Lustig didn't. He saw a business opportunity hiding inside a maintenance report. Here's the detail that made the whole scheme plausible. The Eiffel Tower was never built to last forever. It went up in 1889 for the World's Fair as a temporary structure meant to stand for about 20 years before being dismantled. By the 1920s, it needed constant repainting, elevator repairs, structural inspections. So when Lustig claimed the government secretly wanted it gone, that wasn't a wild story. It was a rumor half of Paris had already heard. Lustig didn't just tell people he was a government official. He became one, on paper. He gave himself the title of Deputy Director General at the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, and had official-looking stationery printed, complete with a forged government seal. Somewhere, a professional forger got paid very well to make a lie look exactly like paperwork. Then he checked into the Hôtel de Crillon, a palace-style hotel on the Place de la Concorde. The kind of place where nobody questions a man who acts like he belongs. From that suite, Monsieur le Ministre started writing letters. Quiet, confidential letters. Sent to exactly the right people. He invited 6 of Paris's top scrap metal dealers to a private, hush-hush meeting. His pitch? Because of engineering problems, mounting repair costs, and political complications he couldn't fully explain, before the public found out and objected. And whoever won this secret deal would get to buy the entire structure and every ton of its scrap metal. And Lustig didn't stop at words. He put the dealers in an official car and drove them to the tower itself, walking them around it like a government inspector doing due diligence. Think about that. He gave a guided tour of a monument he had absolutely no legal right to sell, and the men on that tour thanked him for the privilege. Among the 6 dealers was a man named André Poisson, ambitious, a little insecure about his standing in Paris's business world, and hungry for the kind of deal that would finally get him taken seriously. Lustig read him in about 30 seconds. Poisson wasn't just a buyer, he was the perfect buyer. But there was a problem. Poisson's wife wasn't convinced. Why would a real government official operate this secretly, this quickly, out of a hotel room? It's a fair question. The kind of question that should have ended the entire con right there. Lustig needed something that would turn suspicion into trust, or he was going to lose his biggest target. So he did something almost nobody would think to do. I must confess something. The truth is, I am corrupt. Please, he told Poisson, quietly, that his government salary wasn't enough to live the life a man in his position was expected to live. It's the oldest trick in manipulation. Give someone a smaller, more believable lie to distract them from the bigger one. It worked. Poisson paid the full purchase price for the Eiffel Tower, plus a personal bribe on top, roughly $70,000 at the time, worth well over $1 million today. And that if Poisson could offer him a personal bribe, on top of the price, he'd guarantee him the contract. It's the oldest trick in manipulation. Give someone a smaller, more believable lie to distract them from the bigger one. He walked out of that hotel, believing he was about to own the most famous landmark in France. Lustig, meanwhile, didn't wait around to enjoy the moment. He and his accomplice, an American con man traveling under the name Dan Collins, posing as his secretary, packed up and boarded a train out of France that same day, headed for Vienna. Cash in hand, forged seal packed away. On to the next act. Back in Paris, Poisson eventually realized the horrible truth. There was no deal, no... He'd been robbed by a stranger in a hotel suite. And here's where the story should have ended, with Poisson going straight to the police. Except he didn't. A respected businessman, publicly admitting he'd been fooled into buying the Eiffel Tower, he decided silence was less painful than the headline. Lustig, safe distance, watched the newspapers every day, waiting for the scandal to break. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing. No police report, no article. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing. No police report, no article, just silence, which told Lustig everything he needed to know. If nobody was hunting him, nothing was actually stopping him from doing this again. And this is the part of the story that sounds fake, but isn't. Lustig went back to Paris. Same hotel energy, same government cover story, same forged paperwork, and gathered an entirely new group of scrap metal dealers to sell them the exact same Eiffel Tower for the exact same reasons. But lightning doesn't strike twice for free. This time, one of the buyers got suspicious, enough to go to the police, before handing over a single franc. Lustig realized the run was over, and this time, he didn't just leave the city, he left the country. Next stop, the United States, where absolutely nobody had heard the words Eiffel Tower and for sale in the same sentence. In America, Lustig didn't slow down, he adapted. Same instincts, new marks. He worked ocean liners again, sold fake investment opportunities to wealthy travelers, and built a reputation, under a rotating cast of aliases, as one of the most convincing operators in the country. But his next big idea was, somehow, even bolder than a European landmark. He built, or claimed to build, a machine that could copy money. He called it the Romanian box, a suitcase-sized device with dials, slots, and a hidden compartment loaded with real feed it a genuine bill, wait roughly 6 hours for processing, and out came what looked like a perfect duplicate. In reality, Lustig was just quietly swapping in bills he'd hidden there himself. He sold these boxes for $20,000 or more to businessmen, and reportedly even to a small-town sheriff in Texas, who presumably regretted the purchase deeply once the box ran out of blank paper to counterfeit with him, nowhere to be found. By the time buyers realized the machine didn't actually print anything, Lustig was already gone. Then Lustig did something that should have gotten him killed. He approached Al Capone, not to trick a stranger this time, to pitch an investment directly to one of the most dangerous men in America. He asked Capone for $50,000. Promising to double it within a couple of months through a business deal. 2 months later, Lustig came back and returned every single dollar, claiming the deal had fallen apart, that he handed Lustig $5,000 as a reward, which was the actual target the entire time. Lustig never wanted Capone's $50,000. He wanted Capone's trust and the $5,000 it would be. By the early 1930s, Lustig had moved into something far more serious than con games, real counterfeit. In partnership with a chemist who could engrave convincing printing plates. Together, they produced fake bills good enough and in high enough volume that officials worried it could genuinely destabilize confidence in American currency. This wasn't sleight of hand anymore. This was industrial-scale fraud. And like a lot of criminal empires, this one didn't collapse because of the FBI's brilliance. It collapsed because of jealousy. Lustig's mistress found out he was seeing someone else, and in retaliation, tipped off the authorities. In 1935, agents finally caught up with him on a New York street, ending in a car chase that lasted 9 city blocks before it crashed to a stop. Even under arrest, Lustig had one more trick left. While awaiting trial, he faked an illness, convalescing enough to fool the guards. He escaped using a rope made from bed sheets. He lasted 27 days on the run before he was recaptured in Pittsburgh. This time, there was no talking his way out. He was sentenced to roughly 20 years and sent to the most secure prison in America, Alcatraz. Even in prison, Lustig's legend grew. He's widely credited with writing the so-called 10 commandments for con men. A real list of rules for manipulation. Things like never looking bored, never boasting, and always mirroring the other person's opinions back at them. In late 1946, he began complaining of illness. Guards assumed it was another escape attempt. It wasn't. He had pneumonia, and in 1947, at 57 years old, Victor Lustig died in custody. His official death certificate listed his occupation as apprentice salesman. Even at the very end, the con man got the last word. So here's the question worth sitting with. Two separate groups of experienced businessmen in one of the most sophisticated cities on earth both looked at a stranger in a hotel room and believed he could sell them the Eiffel Tower. Not because they were foolish, but because confidence, paperwork. If you think you'd have spotted it, would you really have? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories about the world's greatest con artists, subscribe, because this is far from the last one.